All right, we're going to go over the revised SV. So 34, Darshan Piece 36, Human Traits of the Sadhu 37, Views of the Senior Sadhus cannot be understood 38, Maharajan Past versus Present 43, Destroying Casual Body 44, Avoiding Worldly Pleasures 45, Accepting Gurus 46, Seeing Maharaja's Divinity. Then back to say Maharaj 47, Maharaj explains why men and women sit separately. 48, Cooling the Jeev, Power of Satsang plus Satpurush. 50 is Hesitation in accepting Maharaja's Purushottam. 51 is Mind is easily deviated by powerful forces. 52 is Vishes plus bondage. 53, Maharaj kept the sadhu to give bliss to spiritual aspirants. 55, Maharaj enforces moral plus spiritual codes. 56, Maharaj's guidance on the best duty. 58, importance of unity in satsang. 59, Jiva eroded by worldly pleasure. 60, associating with the Satpurish through mind, deeds, and words. 61, spiritual wisdom plus glory of God. 64, spiritual knowledge plus detachment from material objects. 65, attachment to Satpurish and constant remembrance of God. 68, association with God, realized sadhu Kijito. Kijito analogy. 70, supreme value of satsang. 72, incomparable glory of satsang. Child of a satsangi possesses infinite times and millions times more divinity than even the avatars. Darshan peace, the qualities of one who's doing them, darshan brings upon inner peace. Is only if one's worldly desires are seized upon doing their darshan is peace felt. That is the quality, and this is actually very difficult to attain. This is very difficult to attain, such that doing someone's darshan creates peace in others. This is very difficult to attain. And these virtues can only be attained if the Satpurush is seen as false, all-knowing, and no distance is kept from him. Human traits to the sadhu. One day Swami said that what is the best thing? The best thing is attaining the association of this God and the sadhu. The worst thing is attributing human faults, human traits to the sadhu. And why do we attribute human traits? As desires for worldly possession, desires for worldly enjoyment, selfish concern for one's body. And the most damaging is prejudice. It maligns the jeev more than even indulging in these sense pleasures. And those who actually do malign the senior prejudice, what are the consequences? Have been consigned to the realm of ghosts, suffer extreme miseries, eating feces, drinking urine, no happiness, anywhere only suffering. A junior devotee cannot understand the views of someone extremely great. Even senior sadhus have not understood Swami's true opinion. That in the same way, the views of senior sadhus cannot be understood. Maharaj in the past was pleased by meditation, renunciation, spreading satsang, establishing one of their teachings and other forms of service. But now in the present, he is only pleased by understanding that God's form is without faults, Maharaj's form is without faults, and sadhu's form should also be understood to be the same way. One should keep the company of a good sadhu and follow Maharaj's commands. Gopalan Swami once asked that when you do meditation, how do you do it? Sadhus replied that in Mansi Puja, we meditate by remembering where Maharaj used to sit and then offer food at that same spot. Then Gaurang Swami explains the control of the three bodies. Physical body is controlled when one doesn't even move when he is bitten by an insect. Subtle body is controlled when meditation is free of worldly desires. Casual body is controlled when sleep and laziness do not interfere. This casual body is actually very, very difficult to control, very difficult to overcome. It's like cutting through a black mountain. So how are you able to do this? Even after much effort, like chiseling a stone for a well, only a small bit of progress is actually made. So how are you able to actually cut through the black mountain and have control over the casual body? Then GS actually replied, use an explosive approach. Drill holes, right? Drill holes is spiritual discourses. Gunpowder, have faith in God. And then fire, which is knowledge of God's glory and God's greatness. This shatters it. Avoiding worldly pleasures. Many people think that happiness lies in woman, wealth, and all of these different desires, but it does not. It does not. It does not. Analogies include children who build playthings. Brahman walking 20 miles, finding and expecting to bathe upon seeing water, but it's actually just a mirage. It's not actually real water. Jeeves are like a deer. They chase after these worldly material pleasures, mistaking them for real happiness, but then they realize that it's like a water mirage. It's not actually real. Accepting a true guru, satsang actually only develops when there's holy places, Bhadrakash and when there's constant company, Mukta Gopalan, Swarupanand, when one has a lifespan of gulp of Brahma to engage in these learned discussion. One has only accepted a true guru when the virtues of the guru develops in the disciple. God had turned Gita into a cow and Arjun into a calf. The same way, one should suckle the guru in the same way. And those who actually do this, they never retreat from moral conduct, austerity, and spiritual duties. But if one has not overcome greed, lust, gluttony, attachment, ego, then one has not accepted a true guru, because a true disciple of a guru would never turn away from moral conducts and austerities and duties. People said, the Four Patel says that, Maharaj, when we look at your feet, you appear to be divine. You appear divine, but and Purushottam, when we look at your body, you appear to be human. Maharaj says that Vairat Brahma prayed at these holy feet for a period of 50 years and 4.5 hours. And then someone says that we are sitting at these assemblies at various different places. How do we know that we are actually looking at you with total concentration? Maharaj says, I have manifested as the form of the Satguru, and all of these lotuses are looking at me. Maharaj says, an Aztec comes to Maharaj and says that you have done a very bad thing, and that is arranging separate assemblies for men and women. And Maharaj says only because he insists that men and women sit in separate assemblies do they actually do so. Without his command, they would actually mix together. And then Maharaj says that he has thought about this, that the mind of a man dwells on the private parts of a woman, and the mind of a woman dwells on the private parts of a man, cooling the jiva, the power of the satsang and the satpurush. Imagine a red hot frying pan, right? Red hot frying pan, 100,000 kilos, 1 or 2 pots of water cannot actually cool it. The only way to actually cool it, if you throw it in the Ganga River, if you throw it in the Ganga River for 10 to 15 days, it will have huge waves, and then it will actually finally cool, right? The jiva is like the red hot pan. It is fried. It is heated with all of these different 5 types of sense pleasures, and only when the jeev is immersed in 10 to 15 days of satsang do the desires begin to settle, and then the jeev begins to cool. And only when do the talkings and teachings, only when they penetrate within, does the jeev actually cool. And you need the satpurush for the cooling of the jeev, right? You need the satpurush for the cooling of the jeev. Right? So until one associated with a satpurush, nothing is actually truly achieved. People hesitate in understanding Maharaj to be Purushottam. The horses of Gujarat are tall and strong, but even if they see a small stream of water, they stop and refuse to enter. Even if someone cuts them, they won't move. If someone threatens them with a shoe, they run away. They are strong and appear very strong, but they are very hesitant at a small obstacle. The jeev is like this. The jeev is like the horse of Gujarat because it is hesitant in understanding Maharaj to be Purushottam. What should the jeev be like? Horse of Alaya Kachar. Even if these horses are mounted upon and placed in the midst of 200 children, they do not stop. They do not hesitate anywhere. They are courageous and steady. Samat Patang. This is an example of bravery and courage. Samat Patang once killed the son of Motera. He did this in the presence of 500 armed soldiers. He returned without hesitation and fear. That is the fearless bravery of Samat Patang. This shows true fearlessness and courage of what the jeev should actually be doing. The mind is easily deviated by powerful forces. A swimmer may be incredibly powerful. But if there is a whirlpool, he will actually drown. That whirlpool is in the form of women. An archer may be capable of splitting a single clove with an arrow, but the wind can deflect the arrow. So the whirlpool is in the form of woman, even though however much skill or sankhya or yoga a person may have. Right? And so whose mind is never deviated? One who has served the pure, served the sadhu, becomes free of base instincts. And that person's mind is never deviated. Vishays and bondage. We know that Vishays are such that they actually cause bondage, but as long as one has attachment, this is actually not realized. We have 3 different examples of Govind Swami. He had attachment to King's maid, but then he realized that I should not have attachment to this. Those who set out to worship God encounter temptation, so I'm faced with this temptation. And so even though the King's maid, even though she was seated upon 10,000 rupees worth of gold, he said, I will go answer a call of nature and return. And he did not return. And then, even though he was a detached person, he became attached to Ganga Ma's rice, dal, and chapati's food. And what was his remedy? Did not allow any village to come in their travels for 3 days and 3 nights. Right? And then Maharaj says to wear a garland of eggplants and carrots and go to Jetalpur to beg. Right? So that is how Maharaj was able to remove all of the attachments and ego that he had. Paramahansa Swami is another example. He had studied the 3 commentaries on Saraswat, and he was a guru of the Kojas, yet he had made his seat among the cows for 2 years and has not had a seat among the sadhus. Again, Mahaprabhu had an attachment to his jodi, and so Maharaj says that leave the jodi of Narayana and then ask on the behalf of the jodi of Lakshmi Narayan. He came to Vartala, stayed 2 to 3 days, and then he left. In the same way, even these powerful, great people have these attachments, and they get subdued into these pleasures. Maharaj has kept Gunatyan Swami onto this earth to give the devotees of Saurat bliss, because he himself was not able to give bliss. So even though his horoscope, Gunatyan Swami's horoscope, was only 58 years, the reason that his body still remains on this earth beyond that is because Maharaj has a great love for the devotees of Saurat. And so that is what Gunathayan Swami does, is he gives katha, he gives these discourses to give bliss to the devotees of Saurat. Maharaj enforces moral and spiritual codes because the devotee asks him that all these different avtars have enforced the practice of moral, have not done this, have not enforced the practice of moral and spiritual codes. So why have you done this? Why have you done this? Maharaj says that other avtars, they merely liberated souls. They merely liberated souls, but they did not destroy the casual body. What is the example of this? Well, Radhikaji quarreled with Sri Dhamma in Goluk, and Jai Vijay quarreled with Sanak sages in Vaikunth. The casual body was not destroyed. Even though they were liberated to these different realms, the casual body itself was not destroyed. And so that is why Maharaj has come down from Akshardham with his sadhu onto this earth, is to destroy the casual body by giving codes of conduct and teaching upasana, and so to make sure people observe and enforce the observance of God's command. And only then is a casual body destroyed, which leads to ultimate liberation. Right? Maharaj's guidance on the best duty. So out of the four, engage in meditation, behave as Atma, serve the sick, and talk about God. Maharaj told Gunathayan Swami that talking about God is the best. And so why was this prompted? That is when, during his pre-initiation days, Maharaj appeared and asked him that, what have you come to do and what have you done? The light of Brahma has become diminished. Unity is critical. Unrighteousness occurs when there's mental discord. But if there's unity, then unrighteousness cannot gain any entry. There is an example, cannot influence. There's an example when a king asked for a quiver of arrows, and even the strongest of among them could not break the quiver. But even the weakest man took a single arrow and was able to break it. So if you remain united, no enemy can defeat you. But if you do not, then even a single defect can drive them out of satsang. So that is why be compatible, maintain unity and harmony. The jiva is like a thorn bush. It has been scraped by material pleasures. In the same way, a thorn bush can be scraped by the sand. Even if you have 1,000-kilometer ocean watering over it, it will not turn luscious green. So in the same way, even a jiva that has been scraped by all these different worldly pleasures, even if it is immersed in satsang, which is like the great ocean of fresh water, it will not blossom because other people, worldly pleasures have worn it down. This is only possible. It is only possible when you have contact with the Satpurus, right? Only when you forsake all of these different body relations and material pleasures. The jiva is seated like a thief. Right? Jiva is seated like a thief. It does not feel the need for God or the great sadhu. It does not have knowledge about his own nature. There's an example when a Muslim mounted a bullock cart and took a stick and shouted, "Who should I fight and who should I not fight?" He boasted, but did not consider his own status because he was neither a soldier nor was he a warrior. Because so the Jew does not understand what its true identity is. The Jew does not have any knowledge about its own nature. It's seated within like a thief. It's seated within like a thief, but he does not have any understanding. So that is the crux of this. Like, Jeev does not have knowledge about its own nature. Jeev, no knowledge about own nature. About own nature. That is why it's so difficult to remove these worldly pleasures. Right? The Jeev should realize how truly weak it is. Right? So this entire SV is talking about how truly weak the Jeev actually is. Because even if it were to suffer a month of diarrhea, then it would realize how truly weak it is. But even despite that, the Jeev behaves carefree. One should associate with the Satpurush through the deeds by performing the actions, through the words by praising the countless virtues, and then through the mind by not losing faith in the great powers. When one's spiritual wisdom increases, then the glory of God that one has also increases. One also understands one owns glory more. There was a shepherd, he found a diamond, and he tied it around the goat's neck. And then the merchant brought the goat along with the diamond, and he sold the diamond for 200. Then it was sold for 1,000, then 10,000, and 100,000. Final owner went to a trader and said, "Do you want to buy this diamond?" And the trader knew the actual value of the diamond, and so he said, "Bring 100 laborers and take all the money you can from my treasury between sunrise and sunset." It was the trader that knew the true value of the diamond, and so because because the trader knew the true value of the diamond, he understood his own glory. So in the same way as one understands God's glory, in the same way the trader understood the value of the diamond, he understood his own value. So one also understands his own glory. Except for the Murti of Maharaj, everything from Prakriti Purush appears like waste. Everything from here to Prakriti Purush appears like waste. And that is the understanding that a great sadhu sees. And one who sees this, one who has this understanding, does not become infatuated with these material objects. And who understood this? It was Sir Van Ivas Anand Swami. Gurunath Swami told them, just keep looking at the Murti. But then he told them that if I were to do this, they would pick up, if I were to do exactly what I'm doing, and if I tell this to anyone, then they would pick up my bed and throw in the waste dump. That is how hard this is to find. Gurunath Swami says that without the Murti of Maharaj, food is like fishes and drink is like urine. Like this is Murti of Maharaj is the best thing in the world. Then we get into constant remembrance of God. And so when one becomes separated from such a sadhu, when the constant remembrance actually breaks of that of a sadhu, the one should feel pain as what? Comparable to having fallen into hell. And if this pain is not felt, then you cannot have said to have been attached to the Satpurush. And without this attachment to the Satpurush, right, if you don't attach yourself, then worldly desires, jiva becomes engrossed in worldly desires in the body. Gurunath Swami says that even if he forgets God for a fraction of a second, he feels as if his head has been slit open. And so there's a question that how do you remember God continuously, like an uninterrupted flow of oil? And so Gurunath Swami says that, do you ever forget your body? The devotee said, no. Just as a fish moves, swims, and is immersed in the water, he does all activities immersed in the form of God. And one who knows this fact, one who is able to immerse himself in the form of God, will never attribute faults even to the great sadhu. And one who doesn't know this fact will attribute faults, right? So who will attribute faults? When one doesn't know the fact that one should remain immersed in the form of God. There's a 1,000-year Kijdo tree. A 1,000-year Kijdo tree produces inedible finger-like pods, but just a 5-year-old mango tree produces delicious mangoes. So if one understands the manifest God and the manifest sadhu, that is like the 5-year-old mango tree. It's, even though he is in satsang for a short period of time, may be young, may not study much, but if he develops faith and manifests God and realizes the sadhu to be God realized, right, then he is like the 5-year-old mango tree. And in his company, one experiences peace and happiness. And do not associate with one who is like the Kijdo. The Kijdo is someone who may be very learned in the Shastras, but if he does not understand the manifest form of God and the manifest sadhu, then he is very unproductive like the Kijdo. And in his company, one will not experience happiness or peace. Same thing with that of a Brahmin. He may possess the 12 holy attributes, but if he does not know the manifest form of God, that even a devotee is of greater superior status than him. Satsang is extremely valuable. That is the beauty and value of a satsang, right? That's why difficulties cannot be kept in the satsang, right? The difficulties cannot be kept, and they could only be encountered when one creates them. And so Gurunath Swami says that just as a wounded skin of a monkey, right? When other monkeys see that wounded skin of a monkey, they all scratch that monkey's skin and they cause pain. So if you all get together and inflict suffering and create suffering upon your own, then yeah, that will arise. But just from the fact that Maharaj is supreme, Sadhu is supreme, place is supreme, right? That alone should not cause any difficulties. And if difficulties do arise despite this, then you can't remove them. Then you can't remove them, because this is the ultimate and best fact that there is. So that is why for one who wants to become happy, there is nothing comparable to this satsang. The incomparable glory of this satsang. Swami explained that there have been many great avatars in the past, and even a child of a satsangi possesses 10 of million times greater the divinity. Swami says in Garuda 267 that I myself cannot comprehend, or Maharaj says that I myself cannot comprehend the limits of my own greatness. So how will others be able to understand it? So satsang is extremely great, extremely valuable. Even the glory of the satsang cannot be understood. That's what Swami said to Kalyan Bhai, that hey, today the glory of the satsang cannot be described as it is. And if it is described, it is not believed. Swami says to Kalyan Bhai that today the glory of this satsang cannot be described as it is. And even if it is described, it is not believed. Today, the glory of the satsang cannot be described as it is, and even if it is described, it is not believed. And so Kalyan Bhai also responded with the fact that statement that the glory of satsang is great. Lord Kapil Dev showed much power but liberated only his mother. Swami says that even in satsang today, even women devotees can redeem thousands of jeeps. So the power of other devotees and sadhus is beyond description.